Well, hello everybody. Laurie Davis here, Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're listening to the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And today I'm solo, might have a guest pop in to join us. And of course, on Wednesday, we talk about wellness. So today I wanted to share a couple of personal stories and also have us look at wellness in all aspects of our life. This has been a very interesting year for me since last September. On September the 1st will be an anniversary for me since I had cancer surgery. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But since that time, so much has transformed within me and outside of me. And I just wanted to share some personal thoughts with you around that today. Wednesday, we usually talk about wellness. And it's a big topic. And now, when you go on Facebook, oh my gosh, cure your COPD in 14 days and do this for that. And there's so much information out there. And technology has played a big part in creating new and innovative ways for us to alternatively take care of ourselves, which is exciting. But hardly a person knows what to do or what to choose. So right now we're streaming live on E360 TV and also on our Facebook page, Self-Worth the Missing Link Superstars, and also on our YouTube channel, which if you search Laurie Davis Show Host, all my shows come up. Old shows, radio shows, and of course the current show, which we're doing right now, which is broadcasting live. So anyway, have a great upcoming weekend. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. The weather's been amazing here in the great Northwest, and we've had hot temperatures, just unbelievable for this time of year. However, fall is in the air because the leaves are turning already, and I had to walk through leaves this morning when I took my dog out for a walk. So, Wellness Wednesday, welcome. This past week, I had the honor of speaking with a friend of mine yesterday on the show, Dr. Verlaine Crawford. And also on Monday, I did a little workshop myself with some of my own team around beliefs. And then this came up again yesterday. And so today, what I wanted to do was just pull it all together as it relates to wellness, because this is Wellness Wednesday on the show. And beliefs are so powerful. It's not just what we think. That's one level. But if we take it to the next level and ramp it up, what really guides and directs us is our belief system. What we believe is true. And so we spoke about this yesterday on the show. If you didn't see yesterday's show, it's a really enlightening and insightful conversation that Verlaine and I had around beliefs. And for many years, I had a lot of beliefs about different things. And where do our beliefs come from? Well, of course, our home environment, our parents, our school life. And I recalled a time when it was in grade 10, and I was so excited for starting high school. And my marks were never the best. I never really was a high percentile performance student. Always passed mid 70s, somewhere in around there. But when I got to grade 10, of course, they had recognized and gone over all your cumulative record cards and saw your track record. And I had this teacher say to me, Laurie Jeffers, I don't know, with those marks, I don't think you're going to amount to much. Yeah, truthfully, that was shared. And I, at the time, did not believe that. That was not a belief that I had at all about myself. But you see how someone else can impose a belief. And then if we're not really secure, we'll embrace that and buy in based on the fact that it's coming from a person in an authoritative role, such as a parent, a teacher, a church clergy person, whatever. So as children, we're like sponges and we take everything in. We believe everything everybody tells us particularly our parents. If our parents say that's not good for you, we believe them. It's just an incredible part of us that I don't think we really explore nearly enough until we've had a crisis. And then that creates a lot of shifts and changes of beliefs within us. So, for example, last year at this time, I was undergoing surgery. I had some cancer cells show up and I had to have a hysterectomy. Well, there was a part of me that didn't believe that we have a terrific healthcare system. And how would I even know that? Because I had not been in a hospital or anything for years, decades. I've enjoyed a very healthy life for which I am extremely grateful. And once I had this done, from May 1st to September 1st, that's all it took for me to get looked after. And I was in complete amazement and awe in the quality of service that I received. So it depends on, I knew I would get through it. I knew I was going to be okay because I embraced that belief that I could lick this thing, and I did. And I didn't take people with me like family or friends. Nobody really offered up either, but I didn't really want that. See, because I believed I set that up so that I wouldn't have somebody around me crying and feeling bad and feeling helpless and hopeless for me. And I didn't want that. So rather than embrace that, I just went myself and allowed the professionals to take care of me. So, how do our belief systems impact our health and our wealth and every aspect of our life when we think about it? So, I had another belief. This was many years ago. My husband had a massive stroke. We were away on holidays, and I he had a stroke. And Christmas morning, I knew that just from what his reaction to things and so on, or lack of. So um, we got him into emergency, and thank goodness it was Christmas morning, so there was nobody there at the emergency, and we got him right in. And he did spend a week in the hospital. He was pretty sick. He had no movement on the right side, poor, slurred speech, couldn't write his own name really, and a non-smoker for many, many years, in good shape, but he didn't know he was diabetic, and his blood sugars went through the roof, and that's what created the blood pressure to go up, and then he had a stroke as a result of that. So watch that sugar. And anyway, we finally get back home across the country, and we couldn't get back right away because the airlines were booked completely with oil field people who were migrating back to the West from Christmas holiday. So it took us about a month to get home. And when we got home, he was scheduled to go to a rehab center, a very good rehab center here in Edmonton, Alberta. And after a lengthy talk and discussion, we decided that we would not be sending him there because I believed that we together could rehabilitate him physically, mentally, intellectually, and it has to be done right away. The brain can bypass certain circuits and certain programs that we have in place and create other avenues for us to do things. So I knew that, and I believed we could do it. So we did, and I had a friend buy me some handrails for the hallway in case we needed those. We never did put those up. They're still in storage here in a package. And we made that concrete decision because of a belief we held that we could do it. We had a huge staircase, and I canceled all my appointments for 3 months, and friends brought us groceries, and the only time we went out was when he had to go to the doctor. So about 8 months later, the rehab center phones and asks to let us know there's a bed for him. And see, this would create a belief that I can't trust that because they were 8 months getting back to us. But by then, Ron was completely recovered, out mowing the grass, doing all the things he always did. So I told them that, it's not happening, and they couldn't believe it. And they said, well, he has to come here. He has to learn how to dress himself. He has to learn how to. And I went, he already knows all these things. So having faith and belief in our own guts and our judgment often eludes us when it comes to dealing with sickness because it's out of our league. We're not trained. We don't have the information. But now, wow, as I said earlier, there's so much information. If you have anything wrong with you, Google it and find out what's causing it. It's just that simple now. But of course, our lives, for me last year at this time, my life was depending on the expertise of the professionals to get me out of this place where I had developed some cancer cells. And it was not even stage 1. So early detection, I paid attention to my body. I listened to my body. My body will tell me what's going on if I pay attention. So those are some things around beliefs and sickness as it relates to my own personal world and how we recovered. And that's a big word now for me, recovery, which I'm going to talk about because there are many, many people who have recovered from lots of things. But sometimes when we're in it personally, we don't think we have what it takes. Well, that's okay for them. That's all right for them. But would it really work for me? And a lot of times, it's the for me part that we forget about. So I believe we have a viewer this morning. So I'm going to see if it's who I think it is. Well, good morning, Cheryl. Good morning. I should have had you on the show today. We'll have to do that again soon, for sure, for sure. How are you? And hope you're having a good day and listening to our broadcast today on wellness. And please feel free, Cheryl, to comment because I love it when those comments come in and we can expand on that. So I'm just talking about the year that I've had. So the cancer was the first thing since a year ago, this time of the year. And then let's go on to what happened for us in May. We had 10 minutes to evacuate our home because of a wildfire threat. The flames were licking the doorsteps of our town, Drayton Valley, and we had 10 minutes to put things together and work our way out of town. And we were evacuated for 2 weeks. Well, that gave me lots of time to think about how grateful I was for having recovered from the cancer. And now we were, and I knew it, be okay with this fire. I believed we'd be back home. Yes, did we think about it burning down? I tried not to think that way, but I had the sense that we would be all right. And we ended up staying with friends in their camper in the yard of a very beautiful couple who allowed us to use their bathroom and make phone calls, just do whatever we had to do while we were there. So I'm really grateful to Dan and Donna for their hospitality and we didn't even know who they were. And if we believe in something strongly enough, but see what happens, as Varlene would have said yesterday, there's this little battle inside, one part of us saying, yes, you can, and the other part saying, yes, you cannot. So it's interesting as it relates to wellness. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Thank you. Oh, yes. It was scary. And thank you for that, Cheryl. I appreciate it. So recovery. I'm doing a big summit in November, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 3 days of, I don't have all my speakers yet, but pretty much, but I'm going to do more than one anyway. I have 21 speakers who are going to come and share their recovery story. So perhaps they're recovering from addictions or alcohol or a divorce or a car accident or like cancer or whatever. I've got 21 people. I actually, when I made my list, had over 50 people that I could call. And because I knew they were success stories of recovery. And I know that it's important for us to hear more of that rather than us always focusing on the problem or the challenge or the situation that we're in right now. So, yesterday I was enlightened with my guest because she said, yes, the cancer. Now, she said, what would have happened to trigger that? And in the form of a trigger would mean stress. What kind of stress did you go through before the cancer was diagnosed? And I was very quick to answer, oh, right, you want to talk? I had to get rid of my resort because COVID hit. Then we had to sell our home because I'm in the people business. So when I couldn't bring people in, yes, I work online and all of that, but my bigger part of my business was my retreat business. And so that all dried up and died during COVID. So I was like hanging on by my fingernails, wondering how I was going to get through it. And so we had a huge house, 50 truckloads of stuff left the house before the movers got there. The movers got there, and then I still had stuff. And I phoned a friend of mine, and I said, listen, I knew they had a depot on their reserve where they take things. He came with a big truck and a flatbed and emptied the rest of the things out of my home. So this was all very stressful. And we moved into a very smaller place and trying to get the business back up and running. And then it started to move forward again. So that period of time was probably that stress because I've had my challenges like anybody else. You don't just arrive on a silver platter. You've had your setbacks, your losses, your disappointments, and I'm no different than that. But at this stage in life, to be experiencing all of that in my 70s, I kept saying, I'm too old for this. Like, I don't need all this in my life. I don't need all this stress in my life. Because stress is equivalent to dis-ease. That means when we're sick, dis-ease. So we're either in a depression about things that happened in the past that we haven't resolved, or we're having panic attacks and anxiety because we don't know what's happening in the future. So one of the benefits for me in the last, I would say 3 years since COVID, was to really, even though I used to coach people on this and teach the concepts, for myself to actually live it is a new experience for me, just to be in the moment. And whatever's happened in the past, I'm leaving it there. And I don't know what's happened. I didn't know I was going to get cancer. Like, who sits around and thinks, oh my gosh, I'm going to get cancer? Especially when it's not prevalent in your family. But it became prevalent right around the same time. Two of my cousins developed cancer. One didn't make it. And we were all going through it at the same time. Two of my two cousins in Nova Scotia, and then me here in the West. So, but I had learned good lessons from my dad. When my dad was 67, he was diagnosed with throat cancer. And he had 20 radiation treatments. I know because my parents stayed with me when you go for 5 minutes and then you come back. And then they had to do surgery. So they operated on him and they'd removed his voice box and he lost his voice and he had to use one of those machines to talk through. And it was a pretty horrific time for him because on my dad's side, the cancer seems to be among the men rather than the women. So everyone that was in the hospital with him passed away. It's a really harsh and ugly surgery. And you end up with a stoma here that you need to breathe through. And of course, he had been a World War II veteran and a heavy smoker back in the day and smoked a pipe. And, He passed away when he was 93. So 67, 77, 87. We're talking 26 years later. Because I know in the very core of who my dad was, he survived World War II and he was hell bent, as they say, that nothing was going to take him out. And he had a few serious operations throughout his life, but there was this feistiness and this belief system that kept him alive. And I learned that from him. I lived in that. And my mom is 90. She'll be 91 in November. She's flying out here in a couple of weeks to come to a family wedding. How cool is that? So it's part of, I know for me, and I'm sure for a lot of our viewers, we have to figure out ways to stay out of the stress zone. Because once the body is under stress, it starts to break down in various aspects. So for me, it was always my lower region, my tummy and my stomach and my digestion. And I don't have that anymore. It's amazing. So when we're walking in wellness, wellness is about keeping the stress away. That's what it is. It's not about taking this pill or taking that vitamin, or there's so much stuff out there right now. But we can take and do all that. And if we still have the stress, we're not going to be well, period. That I've learned as well. So we had the surgery in September, we had the evacuation in May. And then on a positive side, through all that, I received my honorary doctorate in humanitarianism. I mean, what a privilege, an honor. And I couldn't go to my graduation in Atlanta because of the evacuation circumstances. Was I upset? I wanted to go there, but I didn't. I planned to go to Atlanta, and it didn't work out. So in the old days, the old Laurie would have ranted and raved and cried and went on, and this isn't fair and blah, blah, blah. And I got home from the evacuation, and here's an invitation to attend the next graduation for the doctorate receivers in California in April. So did I really miss anything? No, not really. I probably missed all the beautiful people that were there. But what I'm saying is we need to stop angsting about stuff because that's what makes us sick. And I knew when Ron had his stroke 12 years ago that the one thing I was going to do for him was to keep as much stress out of his life as I could. And of course, he had to work on that too. But he'll be 82 in September and doing great. A little forgetful sometimes, but hey, aren't we all? So as we work our way through the stress, what I'd like to do next is just look at each section of what we call our balance wheel, and let's just evaluate where we're at. Now, in the Indigenous community where I do a lot of work, we have our medicine wheel. It's 4 quadrants: staying healthy emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I'd like to expand on that and say, all right, let's look at our family. Let's start there, because that's always families are dysfunctional, basically. So sometimes I feel that I have healthy family relations, and then other times I feel that I don't, based on things that happen or the way people react to things. So if we look at our family relations, how healthy are they? One decision I had to make this year was not to put myself in a position anymore, because I would do this. This would be my narrative. It's my family. I really love them. I want to do whatever I can to help, all that. And then I realized I kept putting myself in positions where I was being hurt by the people that I cared about the most. And I made a decision that I'm not doing that anymore, because I would try to negotiate, lobby, communicate, make my make myself clear, stand up for myself. And oftentimes that was totally misinterpreted as something different. And so I just stopped doing that. I have this saying, I don't get paid enough to be the bad guy. So sometimes you're the bad guy no matter what, whether you think you're doing the right thing or you're not doing the right thing. And then we get pulled into the drama and all of that, and then it becomes very unhealthy. One of the things we created while I was evacuated, I was staying with well, I call them our kids. They're like our kids. They treat us like we're their parents. They're younger than we are, but they're our family. And so Kathy and I sat down and we thought, why don't we come up with 100 shades of dysfunction? Because I have this series now, 100 shades of entrepreneurship, 100 shades of prosperity. These are all workshop series that there's 100 workshops. And I have people enrolled in those right now. So I said, 100 shades of dysfunction. We created that list. I'm not kidding. 40 minutes it took us. And we didn't even have to go outside of her family or my family to come up with the words. Now, I thought that was kind of scary. And of course, we were in the middle of an evacuation, and it's interesting. There were other campers in the yard with us, and everybody reacted and responded to the situation differently because of our experiences. So, you had people really upset, you had people that were really angry, you had people that were like, couldn't care less. It all depends on what has been our experience and our belief system. And some people spent the whole time envisioning their house burning down and what would they do and how would they recover. And other people just spent their time planning a future, whichever way it went. And some people were physically sick and mentally distraught. I'm not sure how many marriages survived. Could we talk about COVID on recovery, right? So, family, how healthy is my family relations? And what do I need to do to change that for myself, first and foremost, so that I can function without the dysfunction? And sometimes that means we have to separate ourselves, or you have a different kind of relationship, or you don't have a relationship. So it goes like that. Another area where we often struggle is in the area of finances. Are we financially well? Well, I've been very well. I've not been so well. I've had the highs and the lows like most people out there, because I didn't come from a wealthy family and I've never inherited any money or anything like that. So finances, how healthy are our finances? Well, finances is like everything else. It's a belief system. So if I believe that I deserve to be poor because rich people are snobs or rich people are dangerous, or these are beliefs that we hold based on our upbringing. So we have to correct that and look at that and go, whoa, wait a minute now. Maybe I'm doing things to block the money. That's what we talked about yesterday. But healthy money attitudes and a healthy relationship with money. It doesn't have to be that I have to have a lot of money or it's terrible that I don't have any money. It's a relationship, just like everything else. And it's only one aspect of our life, but it gets a lot of focus. So over the years, in our work, I would say a good 10 years into our work back in the day, we realized that the two areas where people are most stressed are finance and their health. So in other words, their health and their wealth. So I'm thinking health plus wealth equals happiness. But we have to work on it. We have to recognize where those beliefs are coming from, and are they appropriate any longer? In my generation, back in the 70s, when we were gaining employment, if one of us got a job with the government, that was seen as a really big deal, and you'd be secure the rest of your life. Well, good luck with that now, right? So, health and wealth, those are the two areas that create the most stress. And what does stress do? Makes us sick. So we have to get out from under the stress. If we need more money, we have to figure out a way to get more. Create a product, sell something, start a business, whatever it takes. And we actually help people with that. And my health. Well, what do you believe about what it takes to be healthy? Do you think you need to take medication to be healthy? If you believe that, then you're probably on some medications. I'm quite appalled right now at the fact that when somebody is mentally distraught, that a pill is supposed to fix that, or at least make it go away, or you feel better. But that doesn't really solve the problem. Because now if you break a fingernail, there's probably a pill for that. I could get in trouble for saying that. I'm just giving my opinion. So, health, how well are we doing in the pursuit of wellness? And it's not just pharmaceuticals that are out there. There's all this other stuff that's out there that can make claims. And I'm a product of that because I believe in alternative healthcare. So I try everything that comes along pretty much. So what's your health plan look like? What are you going to be doing to stay healthy and well? Well, first of all, rest. We need our rest. Some people aren't sleeping. Well, when you're sleep deprived, you cannot function. And the only time the body can heal itself is when we are resting. So even if I'm in bed and I'm not particularly sleepy, or usually at night, 10 o'clock, my head hits the pillow, I'm out. I don't toss and turn unless something really big is going on in my world. I'm asleep. 7 o'clock the next morning, I'm up. So that's really 9 hours of rest, between 8 and 9. And maybe on a Sunday, I'll sleep in, because I know that even if I'm not sleeping, if I'm laying still and I'm calm, my body is fixing itself and getting better. So sleep. Number 2, diet. All the chemicals that are in the junk food and the cookies and the chips. Does that mean we can't have those things? Yes, we can. A glass of wine or 2. Healthy. Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Exercise. I'm so grateful for my dog. We live in a place where I cannot let him go out and run. So we had to leash train him, and that means he has to go outside every time he wants to do his business. Well, that means I have to get up off the couch and go outside. And that's 4 or 5 times a day. And that all adds up. And then, of course, your water, staying hydrated. So in my water, I put powdered vitamin C. So when I'm having my water, I'm getting my vitamin C at the same time. I love it. We need to be well. If we're not well, we cannot function mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally. It's just a no-brainer, really. But what stops me from taking good care of myself? Generally, that's a belief. I believe I don't deserve to be well. My whole family's sick. So I'm going to be sick because, they all had cancer, so I'm going to have cancer. See what I'm saying? It's a belief system. So what are we telling ourselves about our level of health and wellness? That it's not possible? My granny was in an asylum and we're all a little whacked, so I guess that's why I'm crazy. I've heard people say stuff like that, and it's just not true. We believe stuff that is just a complete and utter lie. For years, I didn't think I was a pretty woman. Really? Well, imagine. I thought I was too fat. I weighed 120 pounds. I believed I was fat. I went to Weight Watchers. I weighed in at 123 pounds. Like, who does that? They should have sent me home, but they wanted the money. So guess what? No disrespect to Weight Watchers because they've helped a lot of people. And the diet always worked for me. So it's belief systems. What do you believe about yourself? And then out of that belief system comes your behaviors and your attitudes and your decisions based on your beliefs. If I believe that I deserve to be well, I'm going to do everything I can to be there and stay there. And that's about self-love. That's about self-worth. And that's what we do, is help people to build that up so they can then make better decisions, better choices. We all know what to do. It's why we don't do it that I find interesting and I'm curious about. I for years I always used to say I don't want to be sick. I don't like being sick. Um, as a matter of fact, when I was teaching school, one year we had a flu epidemic, just an ordinary flu epidemic. 65% of the kids were out of school because of it. 95% of our teachers, and I never ever got it. And that's the same with COVID. When COVID hit, I made a decision to stay home and not go anywhere. And not get vaxxed. I better not put that out there too strongly. But I chose not to do that. But if I chose not to do that, then it meant I had to take responsibility and make sure that I stayed safe and others stayed safe. All right. What about our wellness as it relates to our spirit, our spirituality? And I'm not really talking about church per se, but that may be your choice of how you stay connected to the Creator, to God, a higher being, the universe. Some people are dead inside. Have you noticed? No spiritual spark at all. I get spiritually enlightened when I take a walk in the park and I do my deep breathing. When I take my dog out, I do my deep breathing every morning. Did you know that oxygen kills cancer cells? So I make sure I get that because we're very shallow breathers. I learned that a long time ago. But there's actually a science behind all that to prove that you get your oxygen in through your bloodstream, it keeps your body well. So the spirit, the spiritual side, knowing that we're not alone, that we're being looked after, that we have lessons we need to learn. And sometimes they're very tough lessons, especially from a spiritual perspective. So we're always evolving and growing spiritually. I love learning new spiritual concepts to take me to a higher consciousness that perhaps I wasn't even aware of. And I just thought I had to dog it all on my own here. So how well are you spiritually? So let's review what we've done. How healthy is your family life? How healthy is your financial life? How healthy is your health and wellness life, literally? Our spiritual life. And then what about your career? And the reason I'm stressing this today is to become well in all areas is because we're talking about getting the stress down. Because it's the stress that makes us sick. So let's go to I'm all about going to the root cause of things rather than putting band-aids on everything all the time. So let's talk about our career, our professional decisions, because there's a lot of stress in the workplace. Actually, coming up this week on Thursday and Friday, I'm doing a big 2-day workshop for a group of a staff of 10 who are working together. It's a brand new office and they want to get off on the right foot. So we're going to be working in that area because we know the workplace can be very stressful. And it's extremely stressful when you don't like what you're doing. You've got a job and you hate your job. I forget the statistic, but it's really, really high, like in the 90 percentile of people who are in jobs that they don't like because they have bills to pay and a family to feed. So they feel that they believe they have to stick with the unhappy workplace, not to mention the commuting and the daycare and everything else that goes along with having a job. So, how healthy is your professional life really? You could be making lots of money, have lots of credentials, and find things very stressful. And that weighs heavy on your body and our health. How healthy are your relationships? Now, relationships would be outside of family. So, people at work, people at church, my friends, people I do business with. How healthy are those relationships? Somebody said, and I thought it was a really great quote, one of my colleagues shared that sometimes you have to let people go because they're not in a position. Go something like this. I'm not reiterating it word for word, but they're not in a position to stay in tune or in touch with where you're going. So they have to leave. So, in other words, you've exceeded maybe your own expectations, but you've definitely exceeded theirs. And so some people are not ready or willing or prepared to do the work that it would take to be able to stay in the plane where you're headed. And that's the pun on words, plane, Plane. So think about that. Because when I used to lose a person in my business or a customer or a family member, I grieved hard. I would call it heavy, hard grieving over the loss of a person in my organization or in the family. And I'm not talking about death. I'm talking about people who physically leave your environment. Some people have that challenge when their children leave home. The empty nest syndrome, you've heard of that. So relationships, having healthy relationships. And what does that look like? Well, for some of us, that might be difficult because perhaps we were brought up in the foster care system and we didn't ever see a healthy relationship, not just in a couple, but in between children and adults and teachers and social workers and all the professionals that are involved in that whole system. So relationships, sometimes we don't know how to do that properly because we haven't had good role models. So how healthy are your relationships? I've got friends I've had for 50 years. I have actually 2 childhood friends that are still dear friends of mine that we've known each other since we were 10 or 12, and they're still my friends 60 years later. I have people that I thought was my friend for a week and then they're gone and poof. So relationships are very fickle and very convoluted and complicated sometimes. So now I work really hard at building relationships with people who respect and value me as an individual and my work in the world. And those are who my friends are. Relationships. And building relationships takes time. And a lot of people either don't have time for friends, they don't want any friends, they don't Well, it comes from that old belief system, you see, about relationships, because my mom said to me one time, you know, Laurie, if you get through life and you only have 2 or 3 really good friends, you're blessed. Now, the way my mind worked was, really? And when I was a teenager, there were probably 4 billion people on the planet, or 3. And in my mind, the way my mind worked was, oh my gosh, there's 3 billion people on the planet and I'm only allowed to have 3 friends? See, that was a belief system that got passed on. And I believed that. So I held back from creating relationships that really I wanted to have. And now I have an amazing circle, internationally broad, of really powerful, strong, loving relationships. And those relationships were evident when I had my cancer last year, when we went through the evacuation. This is when you know, when people step up voluntarily and you don't have to ask for anything. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. I have a friend coming on Sunday. Her name is Sylvia Somerville. Some of you have met her because she's an accomplished author. And she's coming to town. She bought a one-way ticket and come spend some time with me. And the other day she said, Laurie, don't clean or do anything like that. When I get there, I'll help you do whatever we got to do. So you see, poof, look at the stress off me. I don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff just because she's coming. One time, oh my gosh, Laurie, perfectionism. I'd need a year's notice if somebody was coming for a stay like that, because I'd have to get ready and everything would have to be perfect. And that was so unhealthy. I didn't see it as being unhealthy. I saw it as being organized. See how we can justify things with our language and what we believe to be true. I believed that if company was coming, you had to be ready. And that was ingrained in me. And also other members of my family have the same deal going on. But I've let that go too. I was thinking, Saturday, I'll have Saturday to kind of clean up. Nah, I don't think so. Sylvia won't care. She's coming to see us. Isn't that the truth? And we go all out and I'll do all this stuff. And a friend of mine said to me, I don't know why you vacuum before people show up. You're supposed to vacuum after they leave and there's a mess. Well, there's a new belief. I love it. Let's see. Education and learning. And of course, this is my favorite one because this is the field that I'm in. I started out as a school teacher as a young woman, and I taught 15 years. And I left because I wanted to do school my way, which I've done. And right now, my youngest client is 7. My eldest client is 82, and that seems to be the range with whom I work. I have teenagers, youth, men, women, all ages, all backgrounds, all cultures come through our doors. And it's a beautiful thing. Because what I get to do is I get to watch the light bulbs go on. And I get to experience how people are choosing differently to make their life better, to make it more abundant, to make it more effective. And it has been such a rewarding journey. I can't even imagine ever not being an educator. That's my number one role. Facilitator, educator. This workshop that's coming up, I was so excited about it because it meant I had to create a whole new workbook. Yay! So I got to be creative for 2 days and build these beautiful workbooks for my clients. And our theme of our workshop, 2 days, teamwork makes the dream work. And that includes families. When families work together, you get a lot done. You get a lot more done. Family, workplace, women's group, doesn't matter. Teamwork makes the dream work. And we're going to learn all about how to do that in the next 2 days. So when we stop learning, we're dead. Because we are by nature lifelong learners. We are very curious individuals. and we want to know things. And it's so amazing now with technology. I like to do the good side of technology and use it as a tool. I've been working virtually since 2002. That's 21 years I've been online. Before anybody knew Zoom existed, we were working online. But of course, that was the gift from COVID, wasn't it? So that people could still see each other, still meet. It was a huge gift for a lot of organizations who were able to expand and grow internationally. And that's an amazing thing. So people had to step up and learn how to use that system that became available to everybody and anybody that wanted it. And so there are gifts in all things. So whatever we've been through, we can recover. People say, oh, you'll never get over that. How could you ever get over that? Losing a child is a big one for people. How do you ever get over that? But there are people who have. And those are the people that I'm going to have at my recovery summit. People that have been there, walked the walk, did the work, and came out the other side. We need to hear those stories because that gives us hope, encouragement. Maybe I could do that too. I know I could do that. If she did it, he did it, I can do it. So I've started another broadcast, if you will. Probably, I'm thinking maybe once a month or once every 3 months. I do a recovery summit and feature people, everyday, ordinary people who are heroes and sheroes in what they've accomplished in their recovery, their journey of recovery. So my speakers will be speaking 15 minutes about what was their situation, whether it was an addiction, a death, a sickness, whatever. Then they're going to spend 15 minutes talking about what they did to recover. So you get some tips. So get your notebooks out. And the third 15 minutes is where they are now in life. And some of them have, all of them have done amazing things. Amazing things. In spite of what they had to endure to get there. I've had so many recovery moments in my life, I'm a little not sure which one I want to speak about yet. But you can be sure there will be a good story there. Because I've been through a lot of things. And I recovered. If I recovered, you can too. I know it. I believe that. That's a belief I hold. I believe people can change. I don't believe it. I know it. I've seen it happen. So, we're not, I'm interviewing a lady called the Pink Lady. She's coming in October. She's 91, and I'm going to be interviewing her. And she's still active. She has her own production company. She has her own TV show too. And she said, Laurie, it's not over until I say so. And she's 91, going strong. Wait till you meet her. She's gorgeous. So thank you for stepping in, Cheryl. Thank you to our listeners. The shows are archived on E360 TV, streaming live right now on the YouTube channel. They archive the shows as well. And on our Facebook page, Self-Worth, the Missing Link, Superstars. I will not be on the air live for the next few days. I'm traveling, leaving today. I'll be gone tomorrow and Friday. So please help yourself to a recorded show. Monday is Labor Day, so we won't be broadcasting live on Monday, but I'll be back live next Tuesday, which is September the 5th. So we'll see you then. Stay safe. Have a look at some of those beliefs, some of those areas of your life where you need to stay healthy and build new health. Because health just isn't about physical. Health is all those things that I shared. Health in every aspect of our life. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, signing off now for the next few days. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.